2020 Great Film Throwback Day, we're going to be taking a look at a movie that was on my radar for a great many reasons. More recently because of the fact that we just lost one of the most well-known names of the golden age of Hollywood, and that, of course, is the legendary Kirk Douglas at 103. God bless him. But also, if you're new to my channel, welcome, it's a pleasure to have you, and for all of you returning, especially if you've been following me for the last 10 years, you guys know about a very significant, unpopular opinion that I have in my repertoire, and that is the fact that I am not a fan of Stanley Kubrick as a director. I have seen almost all of his films, and now we're going to add the 1960 classic Spartacus to my list, but outside of a couple of others, including the 1962 film Lolita, I have seen A Clockwork Orange, 2001: A Space Odyssey, Full Metal Jacket, etc., and except for Dr. Strangelove, and not including Spartacus at this moment, I just don't get him. I don't get his vision, I don't get the styles of his films, I don't get the messages that they represent, and I find almost all of them boring and just stupid. That's just my own personal opinion, everybody. Have with what you will from that. Although I will say that A Clockwork Orange definitely is a thinking man's movie, and as a Malcolm McDowell fan, I loved his performance. But today we're here to talk about Spartacus, of course, from 1960, and it stars the great Kirk Douglas, Tony Curtis, Gene Simmons, not the bassist from Kiss, the female Gene Simmons, the great Peter Ustinov, and Sir Laurence Olivier. So this is the story about 1st century Rome and the fact that the Roman Empire is still heavy into slavery. Regardless of the color of people's skin, they will just enslave people that they feel are unworthy. And one of the people that was pretty much brought into this system was a man named Spartacus, who believed that slavery was wrong, much like all the people who were enslaved, and he wanted to start a revolution by rising up, building up an army of slaves who are also seeking freedom and escaping, but then seriously believing that in order to do that and really make their mark, they need to take down the Roman Empire head on. So this movie is truly a significant film. Regardless of my attitude towards Stanley Kubrick, this movie is an Oscar winner for cinematography, for costumes, art direction, and well worthy of it. But there's also so many other things that are enveloped in this movie that are quite significant. The fact that 1960, even though I still believe that the true turning point for Hollywood was 1967, 1960, along with another great movie, Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, made a statement in the world of film saying that things are going to change. And one of the biggest things about Spartacus is just how big it is. Even though we had some epic films before, Spartacus really led the way for the rest of the 1960s, including films like Lawrence of Arabia in 1962, which of course would go on to win Best Picture, and of course the 1963 epic among epics, Cleopatra, starring Elizabeth Taylor. This one featured beautiful set pieces, wide-angle shots, unique camera shots that have never been done before, as well as a couple of very bold things that were seen throughout this film, like a lot of gore. I mean, there was a scene in this movie that I was really surprised to actually see for a film that was made at the time that it was made. Not to mention the fact that it really was something truly bold just to get so many extras. There were a lot of practical effects in this movie, but when it comes to seeing those massive crowds of people, especially during the epic battle sequences, those are not digital. Those are not practical effects. Those are hundreds upon hundreds of extras for these big battle sequences, and they are beautifully shot. Everything is vivid, everything is clear, and it is truly an amazing spectacle as far as a vision. as movies go. Another thing that's a little off topic is a lot of the politics that were involved in this film behind the scenes in order to get it made. Kirk Douglas was signed on as a producer for this film specifically because of the writer, who was the great Dalton Trumbo. And we now know a lot more about this story from behind the scenes because there is now a movie called Trumbo that actually revolves a portion of that film in regards to the making of Spartacus, and Bryan Cranston plays Dalton Trumbo. He was even up for an Academy Award and a Golden Globe for that performance, and rightfully so. Even though I haven't seen the movie yet, I really want to. But now that I've seen Spartacus, I want to see it even more because Dalton Trumbo was one of the men that was blacklisted in Hollywood because of the fact that people thought that he was a communist, and Kirk Douglas wanted to not only make sure that this visionary film was made, but he also wanted to make sure that Dalton Trumbo got the credits for the screenwriting of the script, because he wanted people to know that even though, regardless of whether it was true or not, that he may not think about the same things that others would politically in the United States, don't forget, it was in the middle of the Cold War, separating the art from the artist, especially when it comes to Spartacus, truly moves mountains. There's also, speaking of moving mountains, a very powerful score from Alex North. I am absolutely shocked that this movie's score did not get the win for Best Score at the Oscars, because I truly loved this score. There was passion, there was delight, there was sadness, there was gargantuan feelings when you listen to this score in so many different ways, and my goodness, it is a perfect match for this film. A lot of people praised this movie, and it even got the rewards for it because of the accuracy of the time. The costumes truly depicted it. The acting is solid too. I think that Spartacus, played by Kirk Douglas, is wonderful. Tony Curtis as Antoninus is great. Everybody is great, and it's kind of amazing to believe that Peter Ustinov, even though his performance was brilliant as well, was the only one that got an Academy Award for his performance. Everyone's roles were beautiful in this film, and all of these characters were definitely ones that you could latch onto, whether you were following the heroes or praising the villains. But if there's anything negative that I can say about this movie is, I'm not going to say that this movie put me to sleep. There were a couple of points in this time where I was dozing off, but that's only because of the fact that I was tired, and I knew that if I didn't watch this movie, there was no other way that I was going to be able to see it later on, because there was just no time. But I didn't sleep throughout the film for extremely long periods of time, maybe for about 2 or 3 minutes a few times, but I understood the movie, I saw where it was going, I was still very much listening to it, even though I couldn't keep my eyes open for most of the time. Like I said, it's not that the movie was bad. I was just tired. But I will definitely say that Cleopatra really tried to capture the magic that Spartacus gave us in terms of the epicness, and it just really missed the mark. They tried to make it bigger, pretty much to the point in time where they almost drove 20th Century Fox to bankruptcy, and unfortunately, it didn't really do the great job that Spartacus did. And I have to admit that it definitely is a very powerful film. It is actually a film that has grossed a lot of money for Universal. I believe it is still one of the highest grossing films for Universal, and it is kind of interesting to believe that later on in his life, before he passed away, Stanley Kubrick actually distanced himself from Spartacus because he said that this was not the kind of director that I wanted to be. I wanted to become much more visionary, but I don't think he really should walk away from this film because this movie truly made its mark on society. It's got one of the most well-known lines in all of film, which is, "I am Spartacus," and it is probably one of the most powerful scenes in the entire film. But there were a couple of points in time where it was slow, but the movie was still good overall. I will say that I am happy that I actually do like another Stanley Kubrick film. So for me, that actually makes 3 now, because I did appreciate Clockwork Orange, and Dr. Strangelove is one of my all-time favorite comedies. But unfortunately, unlike Dr. Strangelove, this is not a movie that I feel has the rewatchability and the purchasability that I'm sure others would probably say it does have. But I just don't see myself watching this movie again. I will definitely say that this movie pushed the bar forward in regards to movie making. It definitely gave us the reason to make those epic films truly more epic. And this story's plot points, not all of them, but some were definitely used for other films to depict situations in that time. I mean, Gladiator from 2000 starring Russell Crowe and Joaquin Phoenix truly comes to mind when you watch a movie like Spartacus. But yes, regardless of if you are a Stanley Kubrick fan or not, and you haven't seen Spartacus yet, I would definitely say give it a watch at least once, because I'm glad that I did. I was very impressed with it, which is why I'm going to give it a 3 stars out of 4. So thank you very much for watching, everybody. Please leave your comments in the box below, and let's discuss Spartacus, and I will see you in the next one.
Spartacus, we rigged the chariot of the centurion.
Then let's rock and roll!
Hey, thank you so much for stopping by my channel today. If you're new here and want to see more of what my channel has to offer, please click on the link to my last video, or hit that subscribe button to be kept up to date with all of my uploads. Content of all sorts is posted here quite often, so trust me, you do not want to fall behind. I will see you in the comments, and actions speak louder than words.